Every great transformation begins in one place, the mind. Before a single word is spoken, before a single step is taken, before any victory is won, it is first imagined, believed, and built within the mind. The world you see around you is nothing more than the reflection of countless minds that refuse to accept limitation. The mind is the greatest power a human being possesses, yet most people spend their lives letting it run wild, untrained, untamed, and undirected. They let fear dictate their choices, doubt weaken their confidence, and habit steal their potential. But the truth is, your mind is not meant to control you. It is meant to serve you. When you learn to command your thoughts, you unlock the master key to every form of success. The greatest victories in history were not won on battlefields or in boardrooms. They were won in the quiet wars of the human mind. The person who conquers themselves, who learns to direct their focus, discipline their emotions, and strengthen their will, becomes unstoppable. Everything you desire, success, peace, love, achievement, purpose, flows through the channel of your mind. It is your filter, your lens, your engine. If that engine runs on fear and chaos, it will create confusion. But if it runs on clarity and faith, it will create miracles. You do not need more luck, more help, or more time. What you need is mastery over the invisible power that shapes everything else, your thoughts. Think of the mind as a garden. Whatever you plant grows. If you sow seeds of fear, you will reap limitation. If you plant faith, you will harvest success. The soil does not judge. It produces whatever you give it. The same rule applies to your mind. It will always give back what you feed it. Most people plant weeds through negative thinking, self-doubt, and fear of failure, then wonder why their lives feel overgrown and chaotic. But the mind, when properly directed, becomes the most fertile ground for greatness. Train it, feed it, and protect it, and it will bear fruit that will sustain you for life. Control is not suppression, it is creation. To control your mind is not to silence it, but to steer it. It's the ability to choose your thoughts instead of being ruled by them. It's realizing that every feeling, every reaction, every limitation begins with a single thought, and that thought is yours to change. When you understand this truth, you stop blaming circumstances and start shaping them. You stop waiting for opportunity and start creating it. You stop chasing peace and start generating it from within. That's the moment you begin living as the architect of your destiny, not the victim of your emotions. The mind, once mastered, becomes your most loyal servant. It will fight for you, protect you, and guide you to the life you were meant to live. But if left uncontrolled, it becomes your worst enemy, deceiving you, distracting you, and keeping you small. The choice is yours. Will you be a prisoner of your mind or the commander of it? Because once you take control of your thoughts, once you master your mental world, everything else begins to fall perfectly into place. The power is already within you. The time to claim it is now. Every thought that crosses your mind holds energy, and that energy has direction. Your thoughts can serve you or they can destroy you. They can become tools of creation or weapons of self-destruction. The difference lies not in what you think, but in how you command those thoughts. Every great accomplishment begins with a mind disciplined enough to choose which thoughts to nurture and which to cast aside. The undisciplined mind is like a wild horse. It runs wherever emotion leads it, crashing into fear, doubt, and distraction. But the trained mind, the mind under conscious control, becomes unstoppable. It channels its thoughts with precision, turning even obstacles into stepping stones. You hold that same ability within you. The mind doesn't decide who wins or loses. It only obeys the mast, or who gives it direction. When you think with clarity, your thoughts become tools, sharp, effective, and purposeful. They cut through confusion and carve a path toward your goals. But when you think carelessly, those same thoughts can turn into weapons against your own potential. Every "I can't," every "I'm not enough," every "what if it fails" is a blade you turn inward. The words you repeat in your head become the beliefs that shape your limits. And those limits are rarely real. They're simply accepted. The mind, when left unchecked, will create stories of failure long before you ever take your first step. It will warn you of dangers that don't exist, replay old fears, and amplify tiny doubts until they drown out your courage. If you let that voice rule you, it will win every battle before it even begins. But the moment you decide to take command, everything changes. You realize that thoughts are neutral until you give them power. A single negative thought only has life if you feed it attention. Ignore it and it fades. Replace it with strength and it dies. The mind cannot hold two opposing thoughts at once. Whichever one you feed becomes your reality. So every time fear speaks, answer with faith. Every time doubt rises, counter it with belief. This is how thought becomes your ally instead of your enemy. The key is awareness, catching the thought before it takes root. Because once it does, it becomes emotion, and emotion drives action. Control the thought, and you control the outcome. Most people think their problem is external, money, opportunity, support. But the real problem is internal. It's not that the world is against them. It's that their own thoughts are. If you spend your days rehearsing defeat in your mind, don't be surprised when life performs that script. But if you begin to speak to yourself with conviction, if you begin to imagine success vividly and expect it completely, the universe begins to rearrange itself in your favor. That's not wishful thinking. G. It's focus. You begin to notice openings you missed before. You make decisions faster. You attract people and opportunities that match your dominant mental state. It all begins inside. Your thoughts are the builders of your destiny. Every day you have the power to decide what kind of world you will create. Use your thoughts as tools to shape a better version of yourself. Aim them toward growth, discipline, and purpose. Because when your thoughts are aligned with your highest vision, they become unstoppable forces of creation. The same mind that once held you back can set you free. The choice has always been yours, to let your thoughts control you or to rise and control them. One path leads to weakness, the other leads to mastery. And mastery always begins with a single decision to use your mind as your greatest tool, never your greatest threat. The mind always attracts what it holds most deeply. It is the law of dominant thought. The truth that whatever you think about most, you draw closer to yourself. This is not imagination or superstition. It is the natural order of how energy moves. Your mind is a magnet, and it pulls toward you the essence of your most persistent thoughts, whether those thoughts are of success or failure, peace or anxiety, abundance or lack. The result is always the same. You receive what you continuously hold in your mental field. That is why some people rise with unstoppable force, while others stay stuck in the same cycle of struggle. The difference lies not in talent or opportunity, but in focus. What you think about consistently, you inevitably become. Every thought sends out a vibration, and that vibration shapes your behavior, your decisions, your confidence, and even your surroundings. When your dominant thought is a victory, you walk differently, you speak differently, and the world responds differently to you. But when your dominant thought is fear, it steals your energy long before the battle even begins. You can never rise higher than the image you hold of yourself in your own mind. So if your thoughts are filled with limitation, your life will reflect that same limitation. But if your thoughts are charged with vision, courage, and faith, life will begin to mirror that strength back to you. The mind does not question what you feed it, it simply manifests it. You cannot focus on defeat and expect triumph to follow. You cannot dwell on lack and expect prosperity to flow. Whatever you hold with emotional intensity becomes a command to the subconscious mind. It begins to shape your habits, alter your perception, and guide your behavior toward fulfilling that inner command. That is why the greatest secret to success lies not in external work alone, but in mental discipline. Control what you dwell on, because what you dwell on will grow. The gardener who tends his garden with care does not allow weeds to spread. In the same way, you must not allow negative, draining thoughts to take root in your mind. The law of dominant thought will always work. It is never paused or broken. It simply responds to what you choose to plant. You are constantly programming your mind with every word you speak and every image you imagine. The question is, are you programming it for success or for failure? When you repeatedly focus on what you fear, you give it life. But when you visualize what you desire and affirm it with conviction, you begin to build an inner momentum that nothing can stop. Your dominant thought acts like a blueprint for your future. It becomes the mental picture that your subconscious mind works tirelessly to bring to reality. You cannot fool this law. It responds only to consistency. Think something once, and it passes like wind. Think it daily, feel it deeply, and it becomes your world. To master your life, you must master your mental focus. Hold your vision steady even when reality doesn't yet reflect it. Refuse to give your attention to anything that contradicts your dream. The world will always show what you believe most strongly. So choose your thoughts as carefully as you would choose the company you keep. Fill your mind with power, faith, and purpose until they become your natural state. The law of dominant thought will do the rest. It will shape your world, your opportunities, and your destiny to match the vibration of what you hold within. Because at the end of it all, you don't get what you want. You get what you think about most. The most powerful conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Every day, your mind speaks thousands of words you never say out loud. It questions, criticizes, comforts, and commands. This inner dialogue is the constant soundtrack of your life. And whether you realize it or not, it's shaping who you are becoming. The problem is that most people let that inner voice run wild. They let it replay their doubts, magnify their fears, and repeat every past failure like an echo that never ends. But the truth is simple. If you want to master your life, you must first master that voice inside your head. You must take control of the story you tell yourself, because that story becomes your reality. Every time you say to yourself, I can't, I'm not ready, or it's too hard, your subconscious mind listens and believes you. It doesn't argue, it obeys. It takes your words as instruction and begins to shape your behavior to match them. That's why controlling your inner dialogue isn't just about positivity, it's about programming. The words you think become the commands your subconscious follows. If you tell yourself you're capable, your mind will find ways to prove it. If you tell yourself you're unworthy, your mind will collect evidence to support that too. The mind is loyal to your belief system, even if that belief system is destroying you. That's why awareness is everything. You must learn to listen to your own thoughts as if you were listening to someone else speak. And when that inner voice turns against you, you must have the courage to interrupt it. The way you talk to yourself determines the level of power you operate from. A mind filled with self-criticism cannot create greatness, but a mind filled with self-command becomes unstoppable. You have to become the guardian of your inner world. You have to decide which words are allowed to stay and which ones must leave. Replace the inner noise of fear with the calm authority of belief. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I'm learning how. Instead of saying, this is impossible, say, this is preparing me for something greater. The language you use with yourself is not just communication, it's creation. Every phrase you repeat builds the architecture of your confidence or the prison of your limitation. Silence is not the absence of thought. It's the moment when you choose what thought will lead. When you control your inner dialogue, you are no longer a victim of your emotions. You stop being pushed around by every doubt or impulse. You begin to think with purpose, and that purpose rewires your entire state of being. The controlled mind becomes calm under pressure, focused amid distraction, and powerful in the face of fear. You start to see that life responds not to what happens around you, but to what you say to yourself about it. A challenge can either break you or build you, depending on the words that rise in your mind when it appears. Every day, speak to yourself as a leader speaks to their army. Command your mind with certainty and direction. Feed it strength until it learns that weakness no longer belongs there. Tell yourself who you are and what you stand for before the world tries to tell you otherwise. Because when your inner dialogue aligns with your vision, there is nothing you cannot become. The voice in your head can either be your greatest enemy or your greatest ally. Choose to make it your ally. Speak with power. Think with intention. And remember, you are always listening. Make sure the voice you hear I. Inside you is one that pushes you forward, not one that holds you back. Focus is the gatekeeper of power. It decides where your energy goes and where your life flows. The mind, left scattered, achieves nothing of value. It jumps from idea to idea, desire to desire, without direction or depth. But when that same mind is trained to focus, it becomes a laser, cutting through distraction, fear, and uncertainty. The difference between mediocrity and mastery is not talent, it's attention. You can have all the ability in the world, but if your mind is divided, you'll always feel stuck. The person who learns to concentrate their thoughts on one goal, one vision, one clear outcome, becomes unstoppable. Everything great that has ever been built began with someone who refused to look away from their purpose. Your focus determines your reality because whatever you give your attention to expands. Every thought you entertain feeds a direction. If you constantly focus on problems, your mind will become an expert at finding them. But if you focus on solutions, your mind will begin to uncover paths you never noticed before. Energy follows attention. The world moves in the direction of your dominant focus. That's why discipline is not about control from the outside, it's about direction from the inside. You must train yourself to protect your focus the same way you protect your time, because time without focus is wasted life. Distraction is a silent thief of destiny. It comes disguised as comfort, entertainment, or urgency. It whispers, just for a moment, but steals hours, days, even years. The more scattered your attention, the weaker your inner power becomes. Every notification you check, every worry you replay, every comparison you make pulls your mind away from its center. You cannot hit a target you're not aiming at, and you cannot create greatness while living in fragments. Focus is not just about what you choose to look at. It's about what you refuse to look at. You must leer. And to say no to noise. You must train your mind to return again and again to what truly matters. When your mind is focused, everything aligns, your emotions calm, your body follows, your choices sharpen. You begin to feel an inner strength that others mistake for luck, but it's not luck, it's clarity. A focused mind sees opportunities faster, acts with confidence, and endures longer. Even in chaos, it knows where it's going. That's why the most successful people in any field share one habit. They know how to hold attention. They build their life around it. They understand that scattered effort produces scattered results, but concentrated effort multiplies power. The more you train your focus, the easier it becomes to direct it. It starts small. 10 minutes of deep thinking, a day without distractions, a week of undivided purpose, and then it becomes a way of life. You don't need to control the world. You only need to control your focus. When your mind stops chasing everything that moves, you begin to create something that lasts. Focus turns confusion into clarity, goals into results, and dreams into reality. Guard it, protect it, and practice it daily. Let nothing steal it from you. Because when your focus is pure, your energy is unstoppable. And when your energy is unstoppable, the world itself must move out of your way. The mind resists change because it fears the unknown. It clings to comfort even when that comfort keeps you small. Every time you try to rise, grow, or step beyond your limits, that inner resistance awakens. It whispers reasons to wait, excuses to stop, and fears to hold you back. It tells you you're not ready, not smart enough, not strong enough. But that voice is not truth. It's simply the mind trying to protect you from discomfort. The moment you understand that resistance is a signal, not a stop sign, everything shifts. It doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're growing. The only people who never feel resistance are those who never try to rise beyond what they already know. Growth begins the instant you challenge that resistance. The mind will always choose the familiar over the uncertain because it wants control. It finds safety in routine, even when that routine is pain. That's why most people stay stuck. They confuse comfort with peace. True peace doesn't come from staying still. It comes from expanding your power. And expansion always demands friction. The discomfort you feel when you chase your dreams is the same force that strengthens you to achieve them. Resistance is a teacher. It tests your desire to see how much you truly want what you say you want. If you can push through the voice of doubt, if you can keep going when the mind screams stop, you start to build mental muscle, the kind that cannot be shaken by fear or failure. Control of the mind doesn't mean silencing resistance. It means directing it. You cannot eliminate fear, but you can master how you respond to it. You can use it as fuel. Every moment you push through hesitation, you rewrite the code of your subconscious. You prove to yourself that you are stronger than the voice that says you're not. The mind learns through experience. Each time you act despite fear, it adapts. It realizes that discomfort is not danger. And slowly, the resistance that once felt paralyzing becomes the very pressure that shapes your strength. The mountain that seemed impossible becomes the reason you stand taller. Mental resistance is the greatest gatekeeper to success, but it's also the doorway. Every goal worth achieving requires you to pass through it. The moment you feel that inner pull to give up, that's the precise moment you must move forward. The mind will always test your faith before it rewards it. It will throw distractions, fatigue, and frustration in your path to see if you'll surrender. Don't. That's the moment of transformation. The pain of pushing through is temporary, but the pride of conquering your own mind lasts forever. Every act of disciple weakens resistance. Every small victory builds momentum. And soon, what once felt impossible becomes effortless, because you've trained your mind to obey your will, not your fear. Remember, control doesn't mean you never feel resistance. It means you never let it dictate your choices. You can acknowledge fear and still move forward. You can hear doubt and still decide. You can feel pressure and still perform. That's real strength. The mind may resist, but it cannot overpower a soul that's decided. When you take command of that inner battle, life itself begins to yield. The chains of fear break. The limits dissolve. You discover that resistance was never there to stop you. It was there to prove how unstoppable you could become. The mind has the divine power to create realities unseen. Everything that exists in the physical world once lived in the invisible world of imagination. Every building, invention, masterpiece, and movement began as a single picture held in someone's mind. That is the power of imagination. It is the workshop of creation. What you imagine with feeling and faith, you invite into your life. The mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is real. It reacts to both as truth. That means the images you hold most strongly within are shaping your outer world, even when you don't realize it. If you fill your imagination with limitation, you will live within limits. But if you fill it with boldness, freedom, and vision, you begin to create a life that reflects those same qualities. Belief is the bridge between imagination and reality. You can dream endlessly, but until you believe, nothing moves. Belief gives imagination weight. It transforms vision into vibration. It tells your subconscious, this is who I am. This is where I'm going. The universe responds not to wishful thinking, but to the certainty of belief. That's why some people seem to bend life to their will. They don't just hope, they know. They see the outcomes so clearly in their minds that the world has no choice but to align with it. This isn't magic, it's mental law. When your belief and your imagination move in harmony, creation begins to accelerate. Most people use their imagination in reverse. They picture failure, rejection, or loss, and then live in the shadow of those fears. They imagine the worst and then call it realism. But realism without belief is just self-sabotage dressed as logic. The mind that constantly anticipates failure eventually finds it because it is looking for it everywhere. Imagination is not meant to be a weapon against yourself. It is meant to be the canvas upon which you paint your destiny. The greatest power you have is to picture the life you want in such detail, with such emotion, that your mind begins to treat it as truth. When you wake up, you move like someone who already possesses it. When you speak, your words carry authority. And slowly, the line between dream and reality begins to fade. To control your mind is to control the pictures you play in it. Every time you choose faith over fear, you reprogram the creative power of your subconscious. When you visualize your success repeatedly, your brain begins to build pathways toward it. You start to think, act, and decide in alignment with that picture. This is why imagination is not just daydreaming, it's training. You're teaching your mind what to expect. You're creating a mental environment where success feels natural, where abundance feels deserved, and what feels natural to the mind becomes automatic in action. Your imagination is a sacred tool, and your belief is its engine. Together, they make you a creator in your own right. You don't need to wait for permission to dream boldly. You don't need proof before you believe. Every great achievement began with someone who believed before seeing. Hold the image of what you want with faith, speak it with conviction, and live as though it's already on its way. The world cannot resist a mind that believes in its own vision. Because when imagination and belief unite, reality itself begins to move in your favor. Emotions are the fuel of the mind. They are energy in motion, shaping your actions, coloring your perception, and defining your experience of life. Every decision you make is driven by emotion, whether you realize it or not. But here's the truth most people never master. Emotions are meant to serve you, not control you. When you let emotions lead without direction, they can create chaos. Anger clouds judgment, fear freezes opportunity, and doubt poisons vision. Yet when you learn to control your emotions, to channel them instead of being consumed by them, you unlock one of the greatest forms of personal power. The ability to remain calm when others panic, steady when others crumble, focused when others drift. That's emotional mastery. It doesn't mean you suppress how you feel. It means you decide how you'll respond. Control begins with awareness. You cannot master what you refuse to acknowledge. Every emotion, even the painful ones, carries a message. Fear reminds you where courage is needed. Anger shows you where boundaries are broken. Sadness reveals what you value deeply. These emotions are not enemies, they're signals. The mistake is letting them drive the car instead of guide the route. When you let emotions take the wheel, you end up reacting instead of responding. And reaction is the enemy of control. The difference between ordinary people and those who achieve greatness is not that the great ones never feel fear or frustration. It's that they have trained themselves not to be ruled by those emotions. They observe the feeling, understand it, and then choose their action with intention. You can't always choose how you feel, but you can always choose what you do next. That is where real power lives. When life tests you, when things fall apart, when people disappoint you, when uncertainty clouds your path, your emotions will rise up. But in that very moment, you have a choice. Will you let them rule you, or will you rule them? Emotional control does not mean coldness, it means balance. It means staying grounded in your purpose no matter what storms surround you. The person who controls their emotions controls their world because they cannot be manipulated by circumstances or people. They no longer live at the mercy of external events. Their peace is not dependent on perfection. It comes from within. True strength isn't found in aggression or dominance. It's found in composure. The calm mind sees clearly, acts wisely, and recovers quickly. It's not that the calm person feels less. They simply refuse to let feelings dictate destiny. They've learned the sacred pause, the moment between emotion and action where choice lives. In that pause, you decide the direction of your future. Every time you take that breath instead of reacting, you strengthen your control. Every time you stay centered while chaos swirls around you, you build resilience. Over time, emotional discipline becomes your natural state, and your life begins to reflect that stability. Emotions will always visit. You just don't have to let them stay. Feel deeply, but act deliberately. When anger arises, turn it into determination. When fear whispers, answer with courage. When doubt knocks, replace it with conviction. This is how you transform emotional energy into strength. The one who can stand calm in the fire is the one who commands it. And once you've learned to direct your emotions instead of drown in them, you become untouchable because no matter what happens outside, you remain in control within. The mind that refuses to quit is the mind that wins. Persistence is not a matter of talent or luck. It is a state of mental discipline. It is the unwavering decision to keep moving forward long after the mood to do so has passed. Most people start with excitement but stop when the road gets hard. They let temporary discomfort convince them that the dream isn't mean. Tea for them. But the truth is, every goal worth achieving will test your endurance. The mind will try to protect you from exhaustion, failure, and uncertainty. It will whisper that it's easier to stop. Yet the difference between those who succeed and those who give up is simple. One listens to that voice and the other keeps going despite it. Persistence is the art of commanding your mind to serve your vision instead of your emotions. It's choosing progress over comfort, purpose over excuses. Every time you push through resistance, you strengthen the muscle of determination. The mind begins to understand that your decisions are not negotiable. You stop living by moods and start living by mission. There is immense power in a mind that refuses to back down because persistence bends reality in your favor. Opportunities appear not because they're suddenly created, but because your consistent effort allows you to see and seize them. The longer you stay committed, the clearer the path becomes. Failure is not your enemy, it's your training ground. Every setback is feedback. Every delay is development. The mind that controls its reactions to failure grows stronger, sharper, and more unshakable. When you persist through difficulty, you build a kind of inner armor that no external force can pierce. You stop fearing challenges because you realize they're proof that you're still in the fight. Persistence transforms you from a dreamer into a doer, from a believer into an achiever. The world doesn't reward talent alone. It rewards endurance. The one who stays standing after everyone else has sat down is the one who claims the victory. There will be moments when progress feels invisible, when the results don't match the effort, when your faith is tested. In those moments, persistence becomes more than a habit. It becomes your identity. You keep going not because it's easy, but because you've decided that quitting is no longer an option. The mind must be trained to hold that standard. Every day you persist, you teach your subconscious that your word is law, that your commitment cannot be broken. The mind that learns to endure develops an unstoppable rhythm. It stops seeing obstacles as endings and starts seeing them as signals to rise higher. Persistence of the mind is what turns average effort into legendary achievement. It is the invisible thread that ties your dreams to your destiny. Anyone can begin with passion. Few can continue with patience. But when you do, when you persist long enough for your consistency to outweigh your doubt, you become a force of nature. The world bends to the will of those who don't give up. Every challenge you overcome builds proof of your strength. Every victory, no matter how small, fuels the next one. And in time, the mind that once doubted begins to believe completely. That's when the breakthrough comes, when persistence becomes not something you do, but something you are. Because a persistent mind is an unstoppable mind. And once you've trained it to endure, there's nothing in the world that can stand in your way. Within every person lies a deeper intelligence, a silent power that most never learn to access. This inner force, this mastermind within, is the part of you that knows before you think, that guides without words, that sees beyond fear. It is the quiet authority inside you that whispers the truth when the world gets loud. Every great leader, creator, and achiever has learned in some form to connect with this inner mind. They may call it intuition, higher self, or inner wisdom, but it is all the same source. It's not something outside of you to chase. It's something inside you to awaken. The master mind within is your connection to infinite intelligence, the reservoir of ideas, insights, and energy that flows through all of existence. When you align with it, you no longer struggle for direction because clarity becomes natural. To access this inner power, you must learn to quiet the noise of doubt and distraction. The surface mind, filled with fear, comparison, and worry, cannot hear the deeper voice of wisdom. It's only in moments of stillness, when the noise fades, that your inner guidance becomes clear. The master mind speaks not in panic, but in peace. It's the thought that arrives gently, the feeling that feels true even when it doesn't make sense yet. Learning to trust that voice is the highest form of intelligence. When you stop ignoring your intuition and start acting on it, you begin to move with purpose rather than confusion. Every step becomes aligned with a greater plan that your conscious mind can barely grasp, but your deeper mind already knows. This inner power doesn't demand control, it demands connection. You connect with it through faith, focus, and discipline of thought. Faith opens the channel. Focus keeps it clear. Discipline keeps you steady when doubt tries to interrupt. The mastermind within is not just a source of ideas. It is a force that shapes reality itself. When your conscious and subconscious mind align toward a single purpose, the universe begins to rearrange itself in your favor. People call it luck or coincidence, but it's really synchronization. Your inner energy meeting the outer world in perfect timing. You don't chase opportunities anymore, you attract them. You don't beg for inspiration, it flows naturally. The mastermind doesn't rush, it creates with certainty. But you cannot serve two masters, the mastermind and the fearful mind. One believes in possibility, the other believes in limits. One expands, the other contracts. The moment you choose which voice to follow, your life begins to reflect that choice. You strengthen the one you listen to. Feed fear, and it grows. Feed faith, and your inner wisdom becomes louder. The master mind within doesn't compete with the noise. It waits for your attention. Once you learn to listen, you begin to live from power instead of pressure. You start to see challenges not as problems, but as signa. LS guiding you toward greater growth. When you live guided by the master mind within, your actions feel divinely timed, your ideas come with clarity, and your confidence deepens beyond logic. You realize that the answers you've been searching for have always been inside you, waiting for your belief to unlock them. You stop reacting to life and begin directing it. The power that built empires, that inspired geniuses, that created revolutions, it's not reserved for the few. It's within everyone, including you. To control your mind is to awaken this master within, and once awakened, it becomes impossible to live small again. Because when your mind joins hands with its higher power, you stop surviving and start creating the life you were meant to live. The unstoppable mind is not born, it is built. It is forged in the fires of challenge, shaped through discipline, and strengthened by belief. It is the mind that has learned to master itself so completely that no external force can defeat it. An unstoppable mind does not mean a life without struggle. It means a life where struggle no longer defines you. When you reach this level of inner command, you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You move regardless of them. You stop seeking validation. You act from conviction. You stop doubting your ability. You trust your training, your vision, your purpose. This is the highest state of mastery, where your mind no longer reacts to life, but directs it. The unstoppable mind understands that failure is never final. Every setback becomes data. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every loss becomes a lesson. This mindset turns obstacles into opportunities and pressure into progress. While others see endings, the unstoppable mind sees beginnings. It thrives in adversity because it has trained itself to interpret struggle as strength building. The person who controls their interpretation controls their reality. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control the meaning you assign to it. And that meaning determines your next move. The unstoppable mind refuses to label anything as defeat. It simply asks, what's next? That question keeps it moving forward while others remain frozen in frustration. Consistency is its secret weapon. The unstoppable mind doesn't rely on bursts of motivation. It relies on disciplined repetition. It does what needs to be done, whether it feels like it or not. It knows that greatness is built in the unseen hours, in the quiet moments of persistence when no one is watching. Every day, every choice, every small act of control adds another layer of strength. Over time, that mental resilience becomes automatic. The mind learns to default to action instead of hesitation, focus instead of distraction, faith instead of fear. And once that habit is formed, momentum takes over. An unstoppable mind doesn't just face challenges. It crushes them with calm determination. But what truly sets this mind apart is its unshakable belief in its own power. It understands that everything begins within, that the world outside can only mirror the strength within. The unstoppable mind is not arrogant. It is aware. Aware of its potential, aware of its choices, aware that no circumstance holds power over it without permission. This awareness creates freedom. Freedom to think clearly, to act boldly, to create without limit. Such a mind doesn't need constant encouragement or applause. Its motivation is internal, driven by purpose rather than praise. It's the mind that says, even if the whole world doubts me, I will not doubt myself. That is the kind of belief that moves mountains. And finally, the unstoppable mind is one that serves. Because true power is not about domination, it's about contribution. When your mind becomes unstoppable, your energy lifts others. Your example becomes a spark for those still fighting their battles. You show what's possible when a person takes full control of their thoughts, their emotions, air choices. You become living proof that human potential has no ceiling. That's the legacy of mental mastery. Not just success, but significance. When you reach this point, you no longer chase greatness, you embody it. The unstoppable mind doesn't wait for opportunity, it creates it. It doesn't hope for change, it becomes the change. And in doing so, it fulfills the greatest truth of all, that the power to create, to rise, to transform has always been within you. Once you've mastered your mind, you've mastered everything. In the end, everything you've ever wanted, everything you've ever dreamed of comes down to one truth. The quality of your life is the quality of your mind. The world doesn't shape you. You shape it through what you believe, what you think, and what you decide every single day. The people who rise, the ones who stand out, who live fully and fearlessly, are not born different. They simply learned to control the power that lives inside them. They took responsibility for their thoughts, their emotions, and their focus. They stopped letting the noise of the world decide how they felt, and instead, they trained their minds to serve their vision. That's the secret so few discover. Once you master your mind, the rest of life begins to bend in your favor. Your mind is the greatest tool you will ever own. It can be your prison or your passport. It can build walls or open doors. It can destroy your confidence or multiply it. And the difference depends on who's in charge, you or your thoughts. Most people live trapped inside their mental noise, reacting to every emotion and circumstance, never realizing they hold the power to change it all. But the moment you take control, the moment you decide to direct your mind instead of being driven by it, life transforms. You begin to see opportunity where others see obstacles. You begin to create peace where others find chaos. You begin to move with clarity, courage, and purpose. That is the point where ordinary ends and greatness begins. Controlling your mind is not a one-time act. It's a daily practice. It's waking up each morning and deciding, today I lead my thoughts. It's catching yourself when negativity tries to take over and choosing a higher focus. It's replacing doubt with faith, fear with discipline, confusion with vision. Over time, those small victories become habits, and those habits shape destiny. Every moment you spend in control of your inner world strengthens your outer one. You stop fighting against life and start flowing with it. You stop chasing meaning and start living it. There will always be challenges. There will always be tests. But an unshakable mind doesn't break. It adapts. It learns. It grows. It evolves. The stronger your mind becomes, the lighter your burdens feel. The same weight that once crushed you becomes the very pressure that sharpens you. That's the beauty of mental mastery. It doesn't remove difficulty. It redefines it. You realize that obstacles are not in the way. They are the way. Every struggle you face is a call to rise higher, to strengthen your control, to deepen your mastery. So take this truth with you. Your mind is your world. Guard it, train it, challenge it, and most of all, believe in it, because once you awaken the power within, there is no force on earth that can hold you down. You will move with the confidence of someone who knows they are in command of their reality. You will walk through life with purpose, clarity, and peace. The world belongs to the minds that dare to master themselves. Be one of them. Take control and create a life that reflects the limitless power within you. That is the true legacy of a controlled mind: freedom, fulfillment, and unstoppable growth.